Hello, this is Miss Mardoyan here. I'm going to teach you how to make the mole project. So if you don't understand this template that we gave you in class and you don't know how to sew, hopefully this video will clear up any confusion. So there's going to be a couple steps I'm going to take you through, and you can follow this video when you're even making your mole, or you could write down the steps yourself. But the first one is you have the template. If you have lost this template, all you need to do is go onto Google and put chemistry mole template into the search bar and images, and this image will actually come up as a picture, and you can just print it out yourself on a computer or whatever and get the template for yourself. So you have your template, and what you need to do first is you need to cut out your template with some scissors. Alright, so cut your template out with some scissors. Both side, one of these, the bottom, the little nose, and then this foot template. So you got to cut out the four things. Let's do that first. Once you have cut out your template, you should have the following four pieces cut out. And so what we're going to do next with these pieces is we're going to trace the shapes onto fabric. So let's start with this piece. You're going to have any fabric that you have chosen for your mole. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your piece of fabric, okay, and you're going to flip it inside out, like so, and stack the pieces on top of one another, so that the pattern is on the inside of the fabric, because we're going to trace and we don't want to draw on our actual design of the fabric. And you want to flip this inside out in 2 layers, okay, fold it over. Because this piece, it says cut 2, and it's for the sides. You have to have your fabric like this in order to get both sides having the patterns on them. So you're going to then put your mole template on to your fabric. You're going to take a pen, and you're going to trace around. Alright, and it works with a pen, is totally fine. You could use a marker. You're just going to trace. Okay. Okay. So once you've traced it, then you'll have the shape on your pattern. We're going to do the same thing with this piece for the bottom of our mole, and I would, again, you can take one paper. This says only cut 1, and it's for the bottom. So you just need 1 layer of fabric, and you're going to put your mole template, and again, trace out the mole template. Okay. Trace it. Okay, you trace that mold template. Now you have this piece, the bottom, cut or traced out. You also have your nose and your foot. For your foot, it said on our template you need 4 because you need 4 feet. So you're going to trace out the foot 4 times. Or you could fold the fabric into 4 and cut out all together, but sometimes that's harder. Thicker fabric's harder to cut. So I'm going to trace 4 feet. Okay, you do so, and you get the feet, and then you need to trace 1 of that star nose that you also cut out the template for. So this star nose. And I think it works totally fine to use the same fabric that you use this bottom template on, because there's a lot of extra. Okay, so you have your star nose, you have 4 feet, and you have your bottom piece. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your scissors again, and you're going to cut out these pieces. Now I would cut out your pieces about like maybe 1/8 of an inch away from the line, just so that when you sew, your mole isn't going to shrink. But if you cut on your line, that will be fine as well. I just suggest cutting about 1/8 away from where you traced your moles. You're going to cut kind of along this way. You're going to cut these out as well as this one. And when you cut this out, you're going to make sure the layers stay together, and you're going to just cut along, again, the line about 1/8 inch around, and cut out these pieces as well. So take a moment, trace your templates onto your fabric, and then cut out the pieces. Alright, once you have cut out your fabric, you should have the following pieces cut out. Your nose, your 4 feet, the bottom part of your mole, and the 2 sides. And again, you can see that I cut it out, keeping the pattern together in 2 layers. The next thing that we're going to do then is start sewing. So what you're going to need to get, and if you don't have, you can talk to me or talk to your teacher and see if they can help you out, is some sewing needles and a string. I'm just going to use white. So here's some string. And so, maybe I'll use a darker color so you can see. I'll use green. Yeah. So you need some string and you need a needle. So we're going to thread our needle. Go ahead and get some needle and thread your needle. If you don't know how to thread your needle, you're going to take string. I took about my arm's length of a string, and you're going to thread it through the eye. Oh, where's the camera? Through the eye of the needle. Okay, like that. You're going to thread it through, and then pull so that you meet the 2 sides of the thread together. And you're going to tie a knot at the end of the thread. I would do 2 knots for safekeeping on top of one another, so it just makes one bigger knot. Sometimes you don't get it right away. There we go. So, a knot. And we have our thread. So the first pieces that we're going to sew together is we're going to take one of our sides and the bottom of our mole, and we are going to match up the pattern sides together, like so that the feet are facing one another in the back and the front. And we are going to just sew along the line that we drew. So starting at, we can start at the front, doesn't really matter which side you start at, but you start at the front. And we're going to put our needle through and pull tight. And to sew, all you do is you take your needle and you go through the fabric, pull, and then through the fabric, just going down the line. Okay? Just continuing down the line until you get to the other side. Okay, just like so. So you're eventually going to get some stitches that will look like this. You're going to go all the way down, tracing just along the bottom of our mole. So up to here. So take a moment and do that yourself. Okay, once you have sewn the bottom part of your first side to the bottom of your mole, to tie off the string, the best way that I've learned how to do it is when you get to the end, you make a little, you stitch kind of through the fabric again, but on the same side, and you put your needle through the loop. Okay, so again, you put your needle through the fabric so it comes back out on the same side. Okay, like so. And your fabric will make a little loop, or your string, my apologies, my string will make a loop, and I'm going to put my needle through the loop and pull, and it will make a knot. So you can tie that, cut this off. Okay, we have the one side sewn, so if we open it up, it's sealed. So what you're going to do now is you're going to flip your fabric inside out, like so, or the right side out, and take your other piece, other side of your fabric, and you're going to place it along the bottom of your mole again. Okay, so the other side of the bottom of your mole, you're going to place it. Okay, so like so. We're going to sew along the other side of the bottom. This is putting the 2 sides, attaching them to the bottom of our mole, the belly of our mole. So you will have to put some more thread on your needle, and then once again, same thing, starting from the front of our mole, just follow the line and sew all the way to the back and tie off our string again. So take a moment and do that. Alright, so at this point we have sewn both sides of our mole to the bottom of our mole. So we're getting pretty close to being done. So we have stitches on the bottom. A little suggestion, the smaller the stitches you make, the more secure your mole will be. So my stitches are kind of big over here. But starting on this side, I used smaller stitches. So I suggest using smaller stitches, but that's a preference. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sew the top of the mole together. Starting at the front of the mole. Okay, start at the front of the mole. We are going to sew around the hump, around the back of the mole, but we are going to stop about right here. Okay, so we can mark that. We're going to stop sewing about right there and tie off our string. So you're going to need a needle and thread again, and you're going to sew from the front of the mole all the way to about 2 inches, maybe 3, before the back of our mole, because we need a little space so we can flip our mole right side out, and then we will stuff our mole and then continue sewing it shut. So we'll get there in a moment. So still being flipped inside out, sew from the front all the way to about 2-3 inches before the back. Take a moment and do that. Alright, we're almost done here. So once you have sewn the top, see how I stopped about 1 inch or 2 right before the back of our mole? We have now sewn all sides of our mole together, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to, using the little hole that we still haven't sewn shut, we're going to flip our mole right side out so that our fabric shows. You're going to flip it out. Looks like a glob right now, but just wait. Okay, get the front side of our mole. You're going to flip it inside out. Find the feet, flip those right side out. Alright, so here we have our right side out mole. So there's the front, there's the face, there's the little feet and the back. But this is pretty flat, and so we need to stuff our mole. What you can get from a store is stuffing. Okay, it looks like this, the bag of stuffing. Okay, fluff. You get it from Joanne. It's just soft craft polyfill. So you can get a clunk of stuffing, and we are just going to take some stuffing and we are going to stuff it into our mole. Okay, and you can stuff it as soft and squishy or as hard as you'd like your mole to be. We're going to just stuff our mole. When you get your stuffing in your mole, maybe make sure some stuffing gets into the feet of our mole so that the feet are full. Okay, and we'll continue stuffing until our mole is full. If you don't have stuffing and you don't want to go out and buy some, you could also use the leftover fabric from cutting your mole out. You could also use Kleenex or toilet paper or paper towels as well. That works, but stuffing just makes it more stuffed animal-y like. Okay, so now there's our mole stuffed up. And just get some more stuffing in its face. Its feet. Okay, so now you have a stuffed mole. It's way more 3D and it's almost done. What you need to do now is we need to close off the back of our mole, because right now there's stuffing flying out of it. So what you are going to need to get another needle and thread again. Okay, fill one of your needles with some thread, and we are going to sew the back shut. Now you can do this as neatly as possible, depending on your skill level. It might not look. It can look rather like you sewed it from the inside if you do this properly. So what we are going to do is we're going to take our needle and thread here, and we are going to first start by putting the needle into the back of our mole, okay, from the inside out. And we are just going to take one side of the fabric and go to the other side and pull. And go to one side of the fabric and go to the other side, like so, and pull. And keep doing that until the hole in the back of your mole closes. So it might look like they have a couple stitches in them, but that's okay. Had to go through some surgery to get its back shut. Okay. So you can be doing this now as well. We're going to just keep going until we get all the way to the bottom of our mole. Almost there. If you pick a string color that is more like the color of your mole, that would probably help the blending in. I just wanted to use a darker string so that it showed more for your video. Okay. Once you get to the end of your mole, to the butt of your mole, where you have closed the hole in the back, you are just going to once again put the needle through. Don't pull it all the way tight. Find that loop and pull. And do that one more time. So put your needle through your fabric. Pull your needle, but don't pull the string fully tight. Find the loop. Okay, here's my loop. And pull. And there we go. Cut our string off. And we have our stuffed mole. The last step for you is you can take these feet if you want and sew them onto the paws of your mole. Okay, you could sew them so that they have little feet. You don't have to though, that's a preference, it's a little detail extra. So you can sew your feet on your mole. You can also sew the nose on your mole. I think that would be a good idea if you sew the nose on your mole. And then, once you have decided to put either the feet or the nose onto your mole, all that's left is for you to decorate your mole. So this one has lions and giraffes on it, so maybe I would want to put a mane on this mole, like an orange mane, and maybe a tail, and call it a mole-on, a lion mole. I don't know, something like that. But here I just put my nose on my mole. Same idea, just sew it on, okay? Do a couple stitches in it. I did one. Alright, and that's our mole. So you can decorate it and do what you need to do, but voila, you have made a mole and you will get some extra credit in class. So just to reiterate here, the mole